Senator Babet.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister, representing the Minister for Immigration and Citizenship, Minister Watt. Minister, in a media interview yesterday, you said we absolutely condemn the March for Australia rally that's going on today. It's not about increasing social harmony, it's about spreading hate and division in our community.
We absolutely condemn the March for Australia rally that's going on today. It is not about increasing social harmony. We think, and I think the vast majority of the Australians think that multiculturalism has been a good thing for our country. We don't support rallies like this that are about spreading hate and that are about dividing our community.
So, Minister, how does the current record high level of immigration encourage social harmony?
Thank you, Senator Babet. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Babet. I can certainly tell you one thing that doesn't encourage social harmony in Australia, and that is overt support for the kind of rallies we saw yesterday, and that is oppositions who aspire to be future governments of this country opposing Senate motions like we saw about an hour ago that sought to affirm that Australia is a nation that welcomes different races and religions. That's what we saw. No. Have a look back at what you did. You opposed a motion in the Senate that affirmed that Australia is a nation that welcomes different races and religions, and the coalition, the Liberal Party of Australia, opposed a motion that rejected the racism, white supremacy and condemnation of immigrants on display at rallies held over the weekend. That is the so-called Liberal Party of Australia. I don't resolve for one moment from the comments that I made yesterday, and interestingly comments that were made by some members of the opposition before the rallies where they also condemned those rallies. But as I say, the minute the rallies that happened, they ran away from their position at a rate of knots. Now, we saw in the lead-up to those rallies the opposition leader, Ms Lee, go and put a video up saying there is no place for violence, racism or intimidation, trying to take a stand against some of the views that were expressed at those rallies on the weekend. But what we saw at those rallies then was neo-Nazis addressing the Melbourne rally, that rally ending with attacking the site of Aboriginal resistance in Melbourne and a sacred resting place, an Adelaide protester carrying a placard in support of an alleged cop killer, and speeches blaming migrants for housing shortages. That's what we saw at those rallies over the weekend. And then, when offered an opportunity to support a motion of the Senate that affirmed that Australia is a nation that welcomes different races and religions, the opposition voted against that. When offered an opportunity to support a motion rejecting racism, white supremacy that we saw in the rallies, the opposition voted against that. Shame on you.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Babet, first supplementary.
Minister, look, the vast majority of people that were there yesterday at the march were just everyday mums and dads, grandparents, struggling workers and many immigrants themselves.
Our land abounding nations, our beauty rich and rare, in history's page and at every stage, our lives are celebrated.
Do you seriously believe that, as you said on Sky News yesterday, that these people were motivated by hate and division, or are you going to concede that they're just motivated by a genuine concern for their country and their standard of living?
Thank you, Senator Babet. Minister Watt.
There are plenty of ways that people can express their love of their country or express their concern about cost of living. One way that some people have chosen to do that is attend rallies that are being addressed by neo-Nazis. And I don't think that is the right way to express your concern about your country. And I don't think that the views that we had on display at those rallies yesterday represented Australian values whatsoever.
They have over 100 people per rental inspection. Services are so full, they're only offering families of six $20 food relief in Salvos. We are in crisis. We don't talk about today, we're a lost country.
Australian values are about a fair go for everyone, regardless of who they are and where they come from.
We just about had enough now.
Do you understand people's problem with the immigration, mass immigration?
I understand.
And do you support that? Do you agree that we should stop mass immigration?
Yes, we need to fix our problems first and then worry about the rest of the world.
Australian values are about standing
Order,
up,
Senator
standing
Canavan.
up for someone who's less fortunate than yourselves. Not what we saw there yesterday. The values that were expressed at those
Minister Watt, please
rallies yesterday
resume
were
your
not
seat.
Australian values.
Order across the chamber. Order. Senator McKim, you continue to speak over me when I've called for order. Once again, you are being disrespectful to the chair. Minister Watt, please continue.
And you know, I know that in their hearts there are some members of the opposition who agree with what I'm saying. People like Senator Bragg, who was interviewed about this and interviewed about the effect of anti-migrant policies on the coalition's vote at the last election. And he said, someone said to me, if you're a migrant, you get blamed for the housing crisis. If your parent was a dual national, you could get deported. And that wasn't a very good starting point for our campaign. Senator Bragg knows this.
Senator Babet, second supplementary.
Thanks, Minister. Minister, when is your government going to stop insulting everyday Australians and start listening to them by ending the reckless policy of unsustainable mass migration? We all agree with migration, but the problem is the mass migration. It's putting enormous pressure on housing, on infrastructure and on community cohesion. Thank you, Minister.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Oi, oi, oi! Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Oi, oi, oi! Aussie! Oi! Aussie! Oi! Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Oi, oi, oi!
I'm 40 years in Australia tomorrow. It's my anniversary. I come from Germany and I love Australia, and I'm so sad and upset what's becoming of Australia. And we are infantilized, you know, everything is like governed and we can't even breathe anymore. So, and you know, like no housing, no nothing.
Minister Watt.
You know what's putting pressure on housing in Australia? It's opposition parties and independents voting against housing being built. That's what's putting pressure. And it's these hypocrites here who get up and try and use their mealy-mouthed phrases about migration and about Australian values, and then every time we try to do something about housing, they vote against it. Now, Senator Bragg is not alone. We've got Senator Scarr, who I acknowledge does a lot of work in the Queensland multicultural community, and he goes as far as doing speeches in here, speaking to the Australians of Indian heritage.
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Senator Canavan.
Just a point of order on relevance. The question went to the impact of migration on services, and the minister's quoting quotes from coalition senators. I don't see how that could be relevant at all.
Thank you, Senator Canavan. I will draw the minister back to the question, and before I ask him to continue his response, I'll ask for silence in this chamber.
Thanks, President. And I think I have addressed Senator Babet's question in what I've already said about voting against housing, like all of these people do. Now, Senator Scarr spends a lot of his time spending time with multicultural communities in Queensland. He makes speeches to Australians of Indian heritage that their community is a great blessing for our beautiful country.
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Order. Senator Canavan.
Madam President, I think you rightly asked the minister to come back to the question, and instead the minister's then gone back to the exact same points he was making before you asked him to return to the question.
Senator Watt, you need to respond from what the government is doing in relation to Senator Babet's question.
And I repeat that our government is building more housing and is building more infrastructure despite opposition of people over there. The problem is that whether it's Senator Scarr, Senator Bragg or anyone else, they say things up in Queensland or wherever and they come in vote for motions and don't want to condemn far-right neo-Nazi.
Ladies and gents, that was my question to the minister there. Now, obviously, we all know that there was a small fringe element of people there, probably 0.1% of people that were causing trouble. But the vast majority of people are just ordinary, regular, everyday people, normal people that have just had enough of what the government's up to. We all agree with immigration. It's just the speed of the thing. We are upset about the mass immigration, not immigration itself. We welcome people to come to Australia. I welcome people to come to Australia. I am a migrant myself, but it must be sustainable and we must put the people that are already here, the citizens, first. So don't allow the mainstream media to basically, I don't want to use the word lie, but I think I will in this case, to lie and say that it was a whole bunch of Nazis and white supremacists. That's not true at all. It's just regular people that have had enough.